I love the lag waiting for this to start. And there it is. We are live on a Tuesday evening for Talk Time with TJ, Triple T, number 242 on August 18th, 2026. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. My name is TJ Zebel. I like to call myself a professional problem solver, which I always follow up with, no, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking lots of questions. I've got a great tribe to back me up, to help me with answers I can't find. And I also know how to use the internet. But enough about that. Again, thanks for everybody showing up. We are live on YouTube, which means I get to say, hi, Mom, up in Minnesota. And hello to everybody else. And for those of you on YouTube, a special thank you for showing up. And if you would, all of you would please do me a favor, including those of you watching this recording. Do me a couple of YouTube things that don't cost you anything other than a couple of clickety clicks. Go on there and make sure that you are subscribed and smash the like button, like they like to say, and ring the bell to make sure that you know when we're back on the air. And leave some comments. I'm feeling a little left out lately. So, what else? While you're online, you can go and check out my website at www.theTSWB.com. The TSWB.com stands for the tall, skinny, white boy.com. That's he and he am I and all the above. Been the tall, skinny, white boy since way before the internet. So if you see anything else for TSWB that is not tall, skinny, white boy, I am not responsible for that. So feel free to pass it up. Go to my website. There you'll see what kind of things I'm privileged to be able to help people with, such as depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, grief. I get to work with athletes from beginner all the way up to pro level, still doing relationship work. So if you got anybody that is sick of being single, or they are thinking it's about time to be single, have them get a hold of me. And for all the other stuff, like I say, depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, smoke cessation, weight loss, yes, all of the above, have them get a hold of me, because I do offer a free 30-minute consultation. That's right, 30 minutes of our time spent together for no charge to you. At the end, if I feel like I am a fit and I can help you, I will let you know. But I also promise you that if I feel we're not a fit, I will let you know. I don't want to waste your money or our time. And I will do my best to find one of my colleagues that would be a better fit to make sure that you get the change work that you are looking for. There, that being said, now it's time to introduce the tie of the week. Been doing this since the first episode of 24. And this was another tie sent to me by Watcher Dave out there. Dave sent this to me because he knows that I'm a fix-it dude. And this is from the home improvement line.
That's cool. Oh my God, you're like Tim the Tool Man Taylor.
Not only that, it is an actual Tim the Tool Man home improvement. Yes. And I don't know if it'll show up here.
That's awesome.
I don't know if you guys can see it in the camera. The pattern is kind of, the home improvement pattern is kind of ghosted. I can't get it.
Can't see it quite now.
Yeah, right there. But it's in the pattern.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very awesome.
So thank you, Dave. So if anybody else has some cool ties they'd like to donate to the cause, I'm always open for it. Well, we got that out. Anybody got any anything cool from the last time we were here 7 days ago that they'd like to share with the world? Anybody?
I think the world's getting a little more chaotic.
Yes. Yes, with a flashing neon and lots of yes.
I just saw the topics for tonight. These are awesome.
Thank you.
It's like, you know how like they do the New York Times and the word search, and they're like, on Sunday, you got no clue. It's very similar to figuring out your topics.
Uh-huh. Well, it's I've had a number of people and even my clients all commenting on us coming out of this Lions Portal event going on.
I think we're going through another eclipse.
Yeah, well, that and all
You're
sorts
like Hollywood now.
Yeah, so for those of you out there thinking, what? Yes, what is happening, and including the weather and everything. Mother Nature, unfortunately, forgot those of us down in Texas on broil. So I'm looking forward to getting out of here in tomorrow morning, because we are going to be running triple digits for the next 8 to 9 days. Today it was we were hitting right around 106, and with the humidity, it said it felt like 109. And this morning I'm watching while I was watering our trees, because everything out here is parched. I'm watching people taking motorcycles to work. I'm like, I hope that wherever you work is air conditioned, and they probably shouldn't question whether or not you are willing to put in a 12-hour day in air conditioning so that you can ride back home when the sun goes down when it's only 95 degrees instead of 109. Other than that, anybody else got anything they want to share, or did we have a good week of just skating by and letting life happen?
Very good week.
Good. Well,
knocking it out of the park.
Thank you, Holly, the most recent solar eclipse. Knocking it out of the park, Mark. That's awesome.
Oh, I'm also going to say, happy birthday, Mom. Yesterday was my mom's birthday. Yay!
Happy birthday! We're going to wait for you to sing. Of course.
You'll have to accompany me. I'll let you start.
Happiest birthday to Jay's mom. I hope you have a fantastic time celebrating, as I am quite sure everybody else here on Triple T. We hope you are doing wonderfully well. Big hugs and kisses, and I'm not going to sing. You're welcome for that one, though.
There, thank you. Well, it looks like we're at the point where it's time to get to the topics. Before I do, for those of you that are watching for the very first time, I forgot to tell you how the show goes. It's a 2-hour show. First hour, I do my best to try and get through 3 topics that I've picked out for the week. And then at the end of the first hour, we switch things up a little bit, and it's open platform, open mic. Anybody can bring up a question or a topic. I let the people on the call answer first, because I like to learn as well. And after everybody on the call is answered, put in their 2 cents. If I feel I still have something to offer, that's when I toss in my 2 centavos. So without further ado, topics of the week: spirit team, sales, and advice. Well, Douglas County Fair starts Friday. For those of you that are watching, by the way, yes, I'm going to be looking all over the place. I have a 53-inch monitor, and I've got all of you like in this area, and then I've got the comments over here, and I got people up over there, and I've got security cameras over here. So my squirrels have squirrels who know squirrels who brought squirrels that are related to squirrels. So if you want to see me go off topic, just toss a squirrel my way. Squirrel. Back to Spirit Team Sales and Advice. Starting off, Spirit Team. As you guys know, if you've been around Planet TJ for a while, I get most of my topics from my client work, and this is no different. Spirit Team. One of my clients is going through the very rough part of advancing when you start understanding that your old tribe is starting to have less in common with you, and it's harder to talk with them because they're only talking to you. And when you bring up some of the change work that you've been doing and you no longer are this type of person, things can get a little rocky, a little judgmental, shall we say. And as a result, it can get kind of lonely. The problem with starting to realize that you're not the same as the herd, your tribe becomes smaller, but I'm going to say higher quality people. You're going to find that there's not a whole lot of people that you can talk about certain things with. And so my client dubbed it their spirit team. They are very grateful for their current spirit team, but they miss having lots of friends to talk with. In fact, my one client has basically had to walk away from a couple of lifelong friends. Like, we're talking elementary school, middle school, simply because as they've been working on themselves, they realized how absolutely toxic their friends were. And they even have a couple of family members that they are having a really hard time being around. It's kind of like if they know there's a family function and there's going to be a couple of relatives present, they almost have to mentally and physically prepare themselves to be in their presence. And I'm so happy and impressed for this one client, because when we started working together, they were extremely angry, had a lot of rage. They had a hard time controlling emotions. And with the work that we've done together, they haven't had any rage episodes in the past about 4 years. Yes, yay for them. I'm super happy for them. But they are now also in that loneliness era where because they realized that a lot of their rage issues in the past were fed by the people they were hanging out with, they've had to walk away from a number of people that they've known. And they've met a number of people in the last 4 years. The problem is, it doesn't take long while they're hanging out with them to realize, yeah, you're kind of like the others. You're not really a fit. And so they're trying to figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to meet people. And unfortunately, they live a little bit rural on top of it all. And so I told them I would bring up this topic and pick your guys' brains a little bit as to what has your experience been since you started on your journey with what we all have in common here, and what are some of the things that you've found along the way to help with that situation? Any, Lenora?
Triple T. Thank goodness. Thank goodness that this group exists. I think, especially once I started to work with you, TJ, finding people became really tricky, and it was more like one-on-one people. To find groups, I would say this would be my favorite group, but also I would think my most like spirit tribe group. Like, pretty sure we're all in spirit class together in some way, shape, or form, and having people navigate away from us is definitely a blessing in disguise. And it's just one of those things where I think it comes with the experience of having the ability to choose your thoughts and to think differently and to find more people that resonate with you. And I know YouTube has been huge for me, which is very helpful, but recognizing that people will continue to move in and out of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I've had, you started this in what year? Like 2020, 2022.
242 episodes ago I started.
And I would say you and Holly have been the most consistent that I have spent time with from the very beginning. And then other people, even outside of this group, I've had friends that I started like having a really close relationship with. We were resonating, and then suddenly it just kind of, people went off in their own different areas. So I try not to get too attached, and I think of it more as like, a reason, a season, or a lesson.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that. That was one of the things that that my client has been using almost like a protection, is realizing that everybody they meet, the reason, the season, the lesson is applicable. And some it's 30 seconds, sometimes it's 30 days, sometimes it's 30 weeks, sometimes like, some of their friends, 30 years. And you have to be able to see and take away, what was it that they were here as? What reasons, what lessons did I learn from them? And how can I accept the fact if that was potentially their season? Holly.
So many thoughts here. Now, I probably said a lot of this before, but I'm going to say it again. So first of all, there's different levels of figuring out your tribe. One level is building the tribe. Another level is filtering the tribe, are the two things that popped into my head. And those are going to be different phases. And so, filtering out, having boundaries, that TJ talks about our castle and having, who's allowed on the grounds, who's allowed in the, to come to the feast inside, who's allowed to come into the even, more intimate areas of the castle. There's different roles, and that's okay. So first of all, when you're building your tribe, figure out what is it that you want and need in your tribe. Because if we don't actually sit down and figure it out, we default to what feels obvious. I had someone talk about, this was in dating, but they talked about the upside down funnel. And what they're saying is who we're willing to meet in the first few minutes, we start filtering on the dumbest things. Oh, I don't like the color of that person's shirt. Oh, that person has a slightly funny pitch to their voice, So we filter all these people out that could be amazing members of our tribe. But then once people get through and they get into our lives, they could do horrible things to us. And because they're in our life, we're used to them. We don't know what our standards are. We don't know what our non-negotiables are. We don't know what we need in our tribe. We let them stick around no matter what they do. So, tiny funnel at the top. We filter over dumb things that will make it so you can't be my friend. But then once they get into our lives, it's, they walk all over us because we haven't ever sat down and figured out what we want. So, and there's different roles of what you want. So not every single person has to fill every single role.
Yes.
And the number one place that people, make this mistake often, it's their romantic relationship. Oh, I need you to be the person that does all my gossip. And I also need you to be the person that is my moral support every time I go to the doctors. And I also need you to be the person who, it's okay to have different people fulfill different roles for you. Not one person has to fill every single role. And so some of the rules that I would say is, who's the person who calls you out? Who's the person that calls you out on all of your BS? If you're going with what feels good and what just drifts into your life, probably nobody, because that's somebody that you need in your life, but not necessarily somebody that you're going to search for unless you're actively searching for them. So ask yourself, I need somebody who honors my boundaries. How do I know when they're honoring my boundaries? I need somebody who tells me the truth. How do I know when they're telling me the truth? Am I surrounding myself in an echo chamber? Am I surrounding myself by yes men? These are important questions to be asking yourself. And we've discussed it before too, but when you have an abundant tribe, you don't need to spend all of your time with the people who are unhealthy, the people that maybe are barely allowed on the grounds. But when you have nobody in your tribe, the temptation to go back is, well, they're my only person I'm ever going to have, so I've got to be here.
Yeah.
So build a tribe, but it may take time. That's okay that it takes time. Experiment. Don't filter people out over the small things. Get to know people. Give them a chance. And then, so there's two things that I got these from Matthew Hussey. I've never forgot this phrase. He says, what's the through traffic in your living room? You're not going to meet people, for the most part, sitting at home watching Netflix. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So ask yourself, okay, I know who I need in my tribe. Where do they hang out? Where do they go to lunch? Where do they spend their evenings? What hobbies do they do? Once you can narrow that down, you're much more likely to meet the right kind of person. Because if you're not thinking about that, as I say, not that there's anything against this, but if you're trying to find the love of your life, are you really likely to find them at a bar on a weekend? You could, but your percentage hit might not be as high there as it might be somewhere else. So, yes. So, and then the other thing is, no one is entitled to you. No one's entitled to your time. No one's entitled to know your secrets. Nobody's entitled. And that includes parents, siblings, cousins, your best friend from, kindergarten. Because a lot of times we feel like this person's been in my life forever. They've given up so much for me. And I'm not saying get rid of these people easily. But if they are not treating you well, you have every right to go low contact, to go no contact, to communicate boundaries, and to enforce boundaries. Treat yourself right. And the thing is, you're helping them when you do it too. Because when you enable bad behavior, all you're doing is making it so that they don't learn the lessons that they need to learn to become better versions of themselves and to have healthier relationships and all of their other relationships too. So anyway, been going on for a while. Those are a few of my thoughts.
I adore you. The stuff that, and the interesting part is a lot of that is straight out of the triple P protocol for finding your perfect partner. And that's part of what I had to work through with my client is they're in a relationship, they're having challenges in the relationship, but they feel that they've got too much invested and all that stuff. And their partner isn't exactly on board with the whole stuff that we teach, which makes it even more of a challenge for my client to go out and be amongst humans to try and meet more of their spirit team. And so it's kind of another edge to the sword, so shall we say. Mark's got his hand up.
Okay. Holly, again, serendipity at work. My question for later has to do with tribe. So take everything you just said and, bring it with you to the second hour, because my question relates to all of that. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, what you're talking about, TJ, is like I said, as people begin to evolve, okay, they're here with their partner, with their tribe, and they start to move up here, and they start to notice that, yeah, no, I just, again, I just don't have as much in common with these people anymore. And you're always going to associate, women usually only, get together with people they perceive as being at their level or above. Okay. But as you continue to evolve, you start to, I teach people, and as you continue to evolve, you're going to have to let go of relationships. You're going to have to let go of the people that are holding you back, trying to make you into the old version of yourself. So, when and then, if you're going to find a new tribe, you'll find people that are better than you in the things you want to become good at. Again, their path won't be your path, but their mindset will be similar. So as you continue to evolve, you're going to find a group, a tribe that you can become part of. And that's what you have to be on the lookout for is, people that are better than you at the things you want to get really good at.
Yes.
So, and that's just that continual, constant, incremental improvement, evolution. So that's what I teach, is helping people to evolve. And like I said, I'll save the question for the second hour.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Lenora.
I love hearing what everybody has shared so far. Oh my God, it's amazing. One thing that I also wanted to add, especially when Holly was encouraging people to take a look at who you're friends with and also be curious. One of the best things that I have learned and come to appreciate, because I hated it when TJ first asked me to do this, and it was, what else could it be? And he was encouraging me not to stop at my first answer. So if I had said something like, they just want to be mean. Okay, well, what else could it be? Give me at least 3 other things that it could be. And in my own thoughts when something would come up, I still to this day do it all the time. Okay, well, what else could this be about? How else might I see this? And allowing yourself to recognize that the things that you're saying in your head aren't always absolutes. They could be absolutes for you at that exact moment, but they could also be something else. And how else might you look at it? From what other perspective might you look at it? And I find this very interesting when, if you want to see it in real action, go to a comment section on any social media and you will see how different people think about one picture or one reel or one thing that they're coming across. And it really is, I think it's very eye-opening to recognize that there is really, you take it with a grain of salt, there's no right or wrong. Like, I watched a reel of somebody who she had said, she was reading from her cards she was on stage, and she had said, I prepared this, I finished preparing this on the plane and 10 minutes before I came out on stage. The person who had this spot couldn't make it. She had a perfect speech, but she couldn't make it because she can't get out of her own way. Now, in this picture, the woman speaking, my first thought was, oh my God, I could have never done that, finished something 10 minutes before. And I thought, that to me is very impressive for her to just be able to go in and feel like she can go and speak and feel really good about what she's going to share on stage. Had you asked me 2 years ago, had you even asked me maybe a year ago, I would have been like, she was unprepared. She could have done such and such. She didn't have to show up like that. So even in my own thinking, seeing how different I think and whereas in the past, I would have judged, been like, she could have done better. She should have been more prepared. Rather than thinking, what can I learn from this? Somebody was able to put together a speech, and a very good one, without stressing over it, without practicing it for 3 weeks, without being obsessed and overly worried. And he's laughing because he's seen me do many speeches where I've been obsessed and prepared for months and still been overly worried. And this woman just rolled up and she was present. She wasn't freaking out. She wasn't over the top. She was just present, and it was gorgeous. And just in that alone, being able to see my own thoughts and how I would have been a year or so ago and how I think now, I think is so important. So when you have friends, when your friends are evolving out, or when you're meeting new people and you notice like, that was a little off of a conversation. Was it encouraging you to open your mind and your heart in a different way? Was it encouraging you to, perhaps my favorite, suspend judgment and shame? If judgment and shame did not exist, how differently would you think? How differently would you move through the world? How differently would you show up? Oh my God, I have these on Post-its everywhere, short of marking on a bracelet and wearing it on the daily. I think that is so powerful because there are so many times where I have judged myself and shamed myself for what? Who else is in here other than me? Like, I'm not saying these things out loud to people. I'm just talking in here and recognizing and being able to go, oh, this is totally unnecessary. You don't need to beat yourself up over this. This is ridiculous. Like, please move on and go pick something else to look at. It is so extraordinarily powerful. So to anyone who's reevaluating their friends, also allow yourself to raise your awareness to your thoughts and keep going deeper with the relationship that you have between your ears.
So many good things from all of you guys. My squirrels are bouncing all over the place, like, and this, and this, and this, oh, and this, and this, and this. And then we get comments, and Guillermo put in the comment, this tribe makes me better and better. Finding you was the best thing for me. Every lesson that you share here makes me grow as a person, but also that mindset growth assists others around me. Like example, I share many of your thoughts with my kids that helps them to think more outside of the box without too much worry, like a friendly conversation with tons of questions that help them to find their own thoughts to understand what is the right thing to do for their own good. Thank you for sharing that, Guillermo. Yeah, that's our main objective here, is just to help people communicate better and to not only communicate to the people around them, but communicate inside their head better. One of the things that when Holly was sharing all the amazing stuff she shared that popped up was understanding that everybody can be ranked like cards in a deck. There's 4 of everything. And in my triple P protocol for relationship stuff, I teach, the quickest way to find a king or a queen, flip those cards. It's when you sit there and you flip a 9, you're like, oh, but you could be a king if only you were just, and if I could get you to if I could get you to stop doing this, if I could get you to start thinking this way, you could be a king. No, they're a 9. Leave them alone. They're somebody else's king. But is it okay to have a 6 in your tribe? Well, it depends on what they bring to the table. If your plumber is a really good plumber, but as a potential partner, they're a 6, that's okay. They're a great plumber. They're a 6 in the team. Not everybody in the team or the tribe has to be a 10, Jack, King, Queen, Ace. It modifies how much time are you willing to spend around them to protect yourself and make sure that you are using protective empathy, not suicidal empathy. Oh, well, that's one of the challenges with what we do. It's really easy to go, well, I know they had a rough childhood and that's why they talk to me that way. Versus setting a boundary. Look, I get it. You had a rough childhood, but you don't get to talk to me that way. I understand that you have a job that is sucking the life soul out of you, but you don't get to bring that to my house. Either change your job or you just have to not talk about it when you're around me. If you can't do that, then we're going to have to spend less time together. And I was guilty of that. I'm sorry, Mom. I love you. I thank you for all the times that you listened to me just lose my snot in a job that I hated. And I would call home because I love talking to my mom. And it'd be like, hi, how's everything going? Oh, it's good. Oh, by the way, thanks for listening. Love you. And so we have to, as we work on ourselves, understand that you are, as they say many, many different ways, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And you have to decide what's more important to you. The person that you have the potential to be, or the people that you want to hang around with right now. Mark.
just a little input. I just got the insight that you remember the old. You probably remember it. I do. The old game of concentration played with a,
Yep.
with a set of playing cards, and as you were describing, you flip over first, and you discover who they are, and they're, you're a jack. Okay, you're looking for or a queen. You're looking for a queen, and you flip over a card, and it's a 9, and it's not a match. And what do you have to do, TJ? You have to turn the card back over
Yep.
and select someone else until you find that match, basically. So I don't know if that's at the core of Triple P, but I thought it was an interesting. I mean, I was like, oh, I get it. Okay, it's like the old game of concentration.
And that's why the trifecta is so important to learn, because it allows you to find out what card they are in 20 minutes, not 20 dates. And I'm trying to remember the exact quote, or even who said it, but they said that one of the most dangerous parts about dating and love is time. Because the more time you invest, the lower your standards can get, because you will start making excuses for why they are not your king or your queen, and let them get away with it anyway. Basically, like the talk we had about painting the red flags pink. Because, well, I've invested so much time, and 80% of them is really good, and then the other 10% is kind of good, and then there's that 10% that really sucks. Well, it doesn't take much vinegar to ruin the punch. So why are you sticking with an 8? Well, they have potential, yes, and your king has all of the potential, your queen has all the potential, and they're waiting for you to get out of your way and move on so they can meet you. Lenora.
Bananas. The squirrel ran off with it.
That's okay. That happens to me a lot.
There.
You sit there and you listen to everybody else and you're like, oh, squirrel gave me a great thing. And they keep talking. Then the squirrel goes, I'll go get something else for you too. And they take it with them. You're like,
They literally did. All right, go for it, Holly. Sorry.
okay, Holly.
Hopefully Lenora will remember what she was thinking, because I want to hear it. So a few things that popped into my head as we've been talking here. So first of all, for those who are in music, this idea of dissonance keeps coming up in my mind. So if you don't know, dissonance is when I honestly, I'm not that great of a musician, so I probably can't describe it perfectly. But let's say you have a C and a C sharp, and you play them right next to each other. There's going to be a ton of tension there. It's going to sound really, really awful. And if you're trying to sing the C sharp and somebody next to you is trying to sing a C, you're going to have real trouble sticking on your note. I promise I'm going somewhere with this. But here's the key, is when you have somebody who's dissonant to you, you're going to feel it the most. But eventually, either they will pull you back down with them, or they may push you up to another note above them that's more harmonic. And the reason I'm saying this is because a lot of times our old tribe, we may think that we have to leave them behind forever, whatever it may be. First of all, they may one day decide that they want to be somebody different. And so, it may not happen all the time, but don't write them off completely, It doesn't, if your parents don't understand, maybe after they've had a boundary enforced and they've had a chance to do some internal work, they'll become somebody different. But here's the other thing. So I keep thinking about a parent with a toddler, or, dog training was something else that kind of came into my mind. You could be sitting there and seeing the baby throw a temper tantrum. And if you're, the sibling who's 2 years older, you may be taking it very personally. It's really triggering you. It's really bothering you. But as an adult, you may be looking and saying, oh, this is frustrating, but I get it. You're tired and you don't understand when you need to sleep. and you don't understand that it's bedtime. I still love you. It's not going to trigger me. I'm just going to do what needs to be done. Now, I'm not saying every adult approaches it that way, but another thought I had is, if you've got an animal who has some kind of burr in their paw, they might be crying and whining and all this stuff, and you go over and remove it, and all of a sudden they're doing better. So what I was thinking about is, I think it's Chase Hughes who talks about this. He talks about the different ways that you can respond to somebody. So one thing is, say somebody cuts you off in traffic. You might take it personally and say, this person's a jerk. They're out to get me. Then you could also kind of just see them more as an object. Oh, it happened. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm just going to let it go, But then you also have a higher level where you look at it and say, maybe it was an accident. Maybe they didn't even see me here, and now they're feeling guilty about it. Or maybe they're on their way rushing to the emergency room, and they're so focused on getting to the emergency room, they're not even paying attention to anything else.
Yep.
Often when you can see them as a human being who's probably also going through their own things, once again, it doesn't mean it's okay for them to lash out at you just because they're going through something. But you could take that step above of not taking it personally. And if you have enough distance between you and what's bothering. So anyway, where I'm going with this is sometimes it's best if somebody's triggering us to also take a step back and say, what is it in me that is so close to this that this bothers me so much, that this gets under my skin? And what can I heal so that maybe this won't bother me as much? And that doesn't mean we're obligated to do it overnight or whatever. But rather than looking at it as, I'm so triggered, I'm so mad at them, look at it, I'm so triggered, what can I learn from that? And once again, what you're learning, we talk about the lights on the dashboard, it may be the light on the dashboard saying, hey, you don't have a healthy boundary with this person. But it might also be hey, this person is mirroring a part of your shadow side, but maybe you don't have it in the same level that they have it. But there's something that if you look inside yourself and see what's being triggered, there's something you can heal, something you could do better, something you could be honest with yourself about. And then also, I know TJ kind of said this before, but, expanding on that, this person's your plumber versus this person's your romantic partner. Maybe somebody in the role is, a king as your plumber, but a 6 as your romantic partner. And the reason why that matters is because also remember, if someone ever tells you that you are their 6, it's okay, because everybody has a different deck of cards. Everybody has a different fit. Everybody has different things they're looking for. And maybe what they're looking for is toxic and unhealthy. Maybe it's good that you're only their 6.
Yep.
And just because somebody's your 6, it doesn't mean there's nobody out there for them. It just means they're not a good fit for you.
Yep.
And now there might be some people who probably aren't good, shall we say, romantic partner for anybody. But even, this is going to be kind of dark, but Ted Bundy might be a king if what I'm looking for is a research study, and I'm learning about serial killers. He's definitely not going to be the best for best friend. He's not going to be the best for romantic partner. But that doesn't mean there isn't something that I can't learn from him if that's what I'm into. So, there's more than one role people play in each other's lives, and it's okay, in the castle to say, hey, as long as you stay out in the courtyard, you're a king. But, you just don't have the pass to come into the castle. And then also just the other thing is, know that if you keep saying, this person, they seem to be a king, they have the potential to be a king, and then they just mess up every once in a while, know that is the signature of love bombing. The person who seems to be perfect in spurts. So just anyway, when you see that, don't say, oh, this person has potential. Say, oh, am I being love bombed?
Yep.
Not to say that they can't always have potential, but at least ask yourself that question and be honest with yourself about the answer.
Great stuff as always, Holly. Lenora had her hand up first. Go ahead, Lenora.
I did remember. The scroll came and it was actually about boundaries, especially when you were talking about suicidal empathy and knowing where that boundary is. And I personally think it's a lot easier to have boundaries with friends. I think it's a lot easier to have boundaries with coworkers. No problem. Great, easy, super wonderful. people who have known you and are staying in your life, such as like family or even people you live with, those boundaries have, if you recognize, or maybe perhaps this is me, my boundaries were terrible and everybody else was right and I was always wrong. So recognizing that that is not the case, recognizing the own self-talk in my head really helps to build those boundaries and to recognize that you are important. You do matter. And yes, it's wonderful to be understanding. And yes, it's also wonderful to protect yourself, as in stand up for yourself. You don't have to be a doormat all the time. You don't have to always be the most understanding person. You can speak to people in a language that resonates with them. Some people really resonate with tough love and coming across in a certain way. And other people like me, like you cannot, can't tough love me, can't shame me. No, we got no. It's a total loss of communication for me. So finding out how those other people do communicate can be very helpful to help you have those boundaries. And Elijah said something. He's here today. He said something last week that I put in my book, and I didn't even need to pull it up because it is locked in my brain. And he said, be selfish. 100% of the time, be selfish. And the way he said it just really, really landed. And I loved it because last week we were talking about selfishness, but recognizing that you are important too. You matter too. Yes, we can be understanding to other people, and we can be understanding to ourselves that says, I understand they're having a shit day, and I understand that I don't need to take it on for them, and I don't need to carry it with me. And it does not make me a bad person, and it does not make me less loving for recognizing that. So again, with the self-talk.
Great.
But that squirrel came back and Elijah posted something.
Now it's time for Dr. Duncan. Double D.
Hello.
Hello.
As Holly was speaking about, I guess not reacting when something happens, right? Just look at it and see what's going on within you. I had an experience last night. I was driving home on side street here in town. Wasn't going fast, maybe 30 miles an hour. Radio off and just, on my way home in the evening. And suddenly I see this man walking across the street, right, from my left, just walking across the street, oblivious. He was looking down, maybe at his phone. It happened so quickly because he came out from behind a car, and he was a tall guy, dark clothing. It was right after dusk, and I had to jam on my brakes to slow down. Otherwise, I would have run into this man. So I found myself, as I've found myself recently, probably in the past year, where, okay, this just happened. I can feel something going on in my body. Of course, I'm instantly, the adrenaline's going and I'm tense, and I have a couple of choices that are available to me on how I want to be. And I looked at him because what I really wanted to know was what the hell is going on with this man, right? And it could have been a dog could have just died. He's in the middle of a divorce. He's got a disease. Who knows? So my old self would have opened the window and went, what the fuck are you doing? Why aren't you paying attention?
Yeah.
My God, do you want to die? All that kind of stuff. And I didn't open my window. I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. I stopped, and he walked across and he kind of gave me a little wave, like, sorry, And he kept going, and I didn't move right away. And he walked around, and I was almost expecting him to tell me what was going on.
There.
I wanted to know. So, my point is that as I've become whatever more aware, and the word that came to me as Holly was speaking is that aren't we all headed towards, hopefully, consciously or not, we're headed towards freedom, right? So I'm like, I have the freedom to decide, not just the freedom to decide who I want to be in any particular situation, but it's like, keep that consciousness. Like, if I'm dedicated to this being free in all ways, in all situations, all the time, then I can choose how I'm going to respond to anything, anything that all comes up. So I have found myself to be a lot. I'm driving slower, which is really unusual for me because I'm Mario Andretti my whole life, no matter what I drive, you know. But I find it's more like a meditative, right? I don't have to speed. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get where I'm going. Might as well get there where I'm going more efficiently. I'm using less gas. I'm using less brakes and less wear and tear on the vehicle and less stress on myself,
Yes.
right? And I think maybe because I wasn't speeding, and I don't speed anymore on surface streets, maybe on other roads. But if I had been going 3 or 4 or 5 miles an hour faster, I may have run into this gentleman crossing the street,
Mhm.
you know? So I drove a few blocks more home, and I was just like shaking my head, going, I wonder what's going on with this guy. I hope he's okay. I mean, I had this empathy towards him, not knowing him, not knowing what was up for him, but very conscious that I had the ability to respond, and I didn't respond in negative ways. And the other thing that came to me, some second point, is when Holly was speaking about when you're in a situation, don't you have a certain level of responsibility, regardless of if you think you started that thing, right? It's like I'm reminded of the Ho'oponopono prayer, right? Dr. Hugh Lin, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Very, very powerful. His concept or idea, theory about life and living, especially around this prayer, is that everything that is happening in and around you, because it's in your purview, you have a certain level of responsibility around it. And not the duty thing, but the ability, we've spoken of this before, right? The ability to respond, right? That's
Yep.
the meaning of that word. I have the ability to respond, period. And how am I going to do it? So any situation, I have come to know through the years of that consciousness around that prayer, and using it and realizing how powerful it is, because I have seen some positive things happen. And I know that I don't always know what happens because I could see it on somebody out there doing something, having a fight, having a fender bender. I just say that prayer. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. So it's like you're shining a light on this thing and you're saying, God, something's happening here. I'm seeing it. Here's maybe the trigger to help, right? Put some energy there, some healing, whatever. So I think that's part anyway, that's what I was thinking when Holly was speaking, that is one of our powers, to realize that however you're judging a situation, look at that, of course, but that there's always something good in it, whether you think you started it, it's not you, it's them, it's over there, because we're all part of the same family. So if you're recognizing it, there is something that very positive you can do. It's not your fault. You don't have to know the details. Just here it is. Something's happening. Send some help their way.
Yes.
So, anyway, sorry for rambling.
What do you mean? Sorry. No, that's what this whole platform, that's how we share stuff. And the best part is you brought us right up to pretty much the top of the hour.
I did that on purpose.
Yes.
How are those other two topics?
Yes. Yes. Um, Another triple T with a single topic for the first hour. But I want to thank all of you guys for your input on this, because it shows we've all experienced that part of as we advance. And one of the things that the one squirrel brought this back real quick, I know we're getting into your guys' hour, when Mark was talking, as we advance and we grow mentally and situationally, even if we don't move, our tribe changes. I remember going through that part where, you graduate and all your friends head off to college. And I went to college too, and all of a sudden, boom, I've got a new group of friends. We have something in common. We're all in the same class. Oh! And then you graduate and you've got other friends, and then people get married. And then all of a sudden their face is on a milk carton. You never get to see them anymore because they're married, but they're hanging out with their married friends. And then all of a sudden they start having kiddos, making small humans. And even if you're part of the married group, you don't see them anymore because now they're hanging out with the group that has kiddos. And so we're constantly moving and hopefully escalating up higher. Even like in college, depending on what classes you're taking, what profession you're getting into, you have to be willing to allow your tribe to continue to gather and drop off, and hopefully get better and better each time. And I'm going to stop there because I'm into your guys' hour. For those of you that joined us late, what that means is the first hour we did our best to get through 3 topics. We made it through 1. Yay! Now we switch things up a little bit, and it's open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a topic or a question for the group. And I let the group answer first because I like to learn. So, who's got the first question of the hour? I know Mark said he had a question for us for the second hour. Mark's got his hand up. What do you got for us, Mark?
Okay. Again, this is how it happened. Like I said, a client of mine was talking about this man of his acquaintance. Again, we're talking about tribe here. Okay. And this guy, he's very friendly. Like I said, he's made himself quite successful. So he has the nice house in the country with the, with the nice pool and, nicely grounds and, but he said he's friendly. He joins other activities, but he doesn't have any friends. And I was thinking again, if we were going to try to help this guy, he's trying to develop a tribe. He's trying to gather a tribe around him. Okay. And, but he doesn't seem to be too successful creating a tribe. So how do you create a tribe? How do you make it grow? These are some of the questions that were bouncing around my head. And then I had this download from wherever. And I said, again, the thing that I think he's missing, again, there's certain qualities I think that leaders of tribes have. And it fit very nicely into an anagram, F.I.R. Okay, fascination, intrigue, and rapport. So F.I.R. is brand new. It's only been about 20 hours old. But I was thinking about those 3 qualities. Again, he's friendly, but he doesn't have any friends. He wants to create a tribe, and he's got all the background. He sends out these texts to these acquaintances of his to gather them together, but he seems to be unable to create a tribe. So how would we help him? How would we have him create? I said those 3 qualities. Again, he's a very nice guy. He's very friendly, but he doesn't have any friends.
And what is that?
He's trying to gather together all these acquaintances and create a tribe. And he hasn't been successful so far. So the question is to everybody: how would we help him? How would we, what kind of advice could we give him about the formation of tribes who he has to become to attract the tribe. Like I said, everything Holly said and a lot of stuff Lenore said was like spot on in terms of, but if this guy came in for help, the question is, how would we help him?
Cool. And real quick again, what was FIR?
Fascination,
Fascination.
intrigue, and rapport. And I just put those, like I said, that just kind of like came to me. It's like somebody tapped me on the shoulder and went, yeah, these are the three things that he needs to find in himself so that he can become the kind of leader that people would gather around. So, and the anagram, I was just looking at the first letters and I said, okay, FIR, that would be a good anagram for it. So fascination, intrigue, and rapport. And I think it's something he would, yeah, you're welcome to steal it. It's fine.
Yeah. Holly.
So many thoughts. First of all, I will say I think those three, fascination, intrigue, rapport, but spot on for a lot of people.
Yep.
My first thought is you mentioned that he said he doesn't have friends, and that's a nominalization, which we talk about. Nominalizations are something you can't necessarily put in a wheelbarrow. What does friendship mean to him? Because he may have a checklist.
Yep.
That the checklist itself might be part of the problem or maybe part of the answer as well. Because I know, for instance, when I was younger, I had what I thought friends meant. And then I'd say, oh, I can't find, and then I realized, actually, no, friendship is something completely different than what I used to think it was. So I also, this thought came to my mind of, this has been something that's been a theme of my life a lot lately, but it's three words: dependence, interdependence, and independence. And a lot of people, when it comes to relationships, are either so far on the dependent side or so far on the independent side that they really struggle with relationships. The independence person is, I'm not ever going to rely on anybody else. I'm not ever going to be vulnerable with anybody else. And, it can mean, that's another nominalization. It can mean lots of different things. And, it can even be an avoidant attachment style. I'm afraid to get close to people. I got to dismiss them before they dismiss me. On the flip side, you've got, dependence, which might be associated with the anxious attachment style. I've got to cling to everybody till I'm, suffocating them because I'm terrified they're going to abandon me. And so I'm going around latching on to everybody constantly. Neither one of those extremes, if you think of it as a spectrum, neither one of those extremes is healthy. And that's not to say there aren't moments where we need to be dependent and moments where we need to be independent. That's, this is what is your average way of approaching life. But interdependence is where you say, it's okay for other people to be in my life. I value that. I will occasionally lean on them. I expect them to occasionally lean on me. And it is a skill set. And this is where a lot of secure attachment style comes in too, where we're saying, hey, I'm not going to be so anxious that I'm sure that they're going to disappear on me, but I'm not going to be so avoidant that I'm not going to let them get really close to me at all for real. I'm going to, I'm trying to think of the way that Matthew Hussey put it. I'm going to invest, then test. So I'm going to invest a little bit of vulnerability, and then I'm going to test what they do with it. And if they treat it well, maybe I'll invest a little bit more and I'll test a little bit more. But where a lot of people mess up is, first of all, they test before they're willing to invest. And so they always expect the other person to go first. And, you might find the occasional person who is willing to go first. But you are relying on them always going first in that scenario. And in some ways, it's almost not fair. We were talking about the upside down filter. I'm going to test you on, I don't like the color of shirt you're wearing. You failed that test. Sorry, we're not going any deeper. But, the first investment might literally be just saying, I'm going to smile at somebody and say hi. And then I'm going to see, do they respond back and say hi to me? And then maybe the next investment is, I'm going to ask their opinion about something. Anyway, so, you can have a million friends, but if you are hyper independent and you are not willing to ever be vulnerable, they will never get close to you. They will never get to know the real you. And so you may feel extremely lonely surrounded by the best people in the world because you're not willing to let them in. You're not willing to let them get to know the real you. You're not really just willing to show that version of yourself to them. And that's not because they wouldn't accept you. You didn't even give them a chance to try to accept you. I've said it this way before too. It could be dangerous to let somebody in, because once you let somebody in, your heart is vulnerable. Who knows what they might do with it? But if you let the right people in, one good person can rebuild your heart from 100, maybe even 1,000 other people breaking it. So, the break might really, 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 really hurt. But finding the right people is worth risking getting broken.
Yep.
And you may pick the wrong person to trust the very first time, but if you keep going, you will eventually find the right person. Unless you have like something extreme about you that only selects for toxic people. So anyway, definitely once you've got that, going into the trifecta, which I'm sure we'll talk about, the 3 magic questions, the echo talk, all that matters. So like rapport, absolutely solidly there. But I was just thinking about, there's 2 reasons why people don't have friends. One is they don't like me. And the other one is I don't like them. And so I think you need to zero in those 2 places, or the other place is I never meet anybody. Those are kind of the 3 failure points. Is it I never meet anybody? Or maybe I only meet the wrong people? Is it that I don't ever like them? Or is it they don't ever like me? So if it's they don't ever like me, maybe I need to work on the trifecta. Maybe I need to work on whether I monopolize conversations or I split it 50-50. Maybe I need to look and see, do I always expect them to give and give and give, and I just take and take and take and take, and it's there's no interdependence. It's just me taking off. Or the flip side, maybe I give and give and give and give and give, but never let them give to me. And they just eventually, they leave because they feel guilty about that because they're a healthy person. So anyway, I would say, so bottom line is what I'm saying is find where in those 3 processes, is it, if it's that you're not meeting people, do a meetup, invite people over, go to meetups, write down the kind of people you want to meet, and, go to a restaurant, go to a bar, go to a park, walk your dog. There's a million different ways that we can meet people, even if it's just at the grocery store. But so first of all, put yourself in the place where people are, especially the kind of people you want to meet. And second of all, when you're there, be open to opportunity.
Yes.
And recognize you could meet your next best friend standing in line at the grocery store. You never know. So, give yourself opportunities. Make sure that your filtering criteria isn't filtering, upside down, filtering everybody out to begin with over stupid little things. And then later you're willing to put up with anything. But then, yes, once you actually have people in your life, ask yourself, am I giving value? Is it that people don't want to be around me because I'm bringing in a negative attitude, because I'm a taker, because all of these things? Or is it that I'm not how do I like them? Maybe I need to be more fascinated with them. Maybe I need to be more vulnerable with them. So I'm sure there's a million other things, but those are the first things that came to my mind.
Yes. Thank you so much for all of that. And I'm going to toss on there, I've said this many times, you are one hello away from an entirely different life. Other than Dr. Duncan, I met all of you because of David Snyder. And my wife hates it when I tell people, ask how I met Duncan. She hates it because I always joke that I met him on Craigslist.
Yeah, I remember.
True story. I was looking for a stereo for my van, one of the vans I owned, and went on Craigslist, and there was one for sale, and it just so happened to be for sale through Dr. Duncan, and I showed up and glad we didn't meet somewhere like I'll meet you at such and such. I met him at his place and saw that amazing workshop he's gotten. We started chatting, and that was almost 10 years ago, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. And Mike put in the comments, what about outer circle, middle circle, and inner circle rating to hold people for your own security? And how much grace are you willing to give as they give you grace in their rating? And to answer that quickly, Mike, that's where I bring up you are the king of your kingdom, and you decide who's allowed on the kingdom grounds, the whole kingdom, who's allowed inside of the city walls, who's allowed inside of the castle, who's allowed to sit at the head table, and who's allowed to enter the king's chambers. And not every those are very distinct sections. That's why I say if you meet somebody and out of a deck of cards they're a 6, but they're a great plumber, hey, you don't need a great plumber to be a king. It's handy if your king is a great plumber and a bunch of the other stuff, or your queen is amazing at doing this, that, and the other. But that's where you have people. I got a person for that. And like Renee, my husband is a secondhand Craigslist find. Well, you know, it's amazing how we manage to meet people. And let's see what we got here. For those of you that are watching this recording or you're watching on YouTube, you might want to join us sometimes. That I don't read all of the comments, but there's some pretty cute ones in there. So feel free to join us. It's free. Anybody else got any comments they want to add to this? I want to really mark the idea of fascination, intrigue, and rapport. FIR, F-I-R. That's really cool, especially for building tribe. But I think it also needs to be done with intention. You know, I had a great friend that I knew out in San Diego, and they're like, oh, I can't, this town sucks, I can't meet anybody. Well, they were sitting on the porch every night after work. They would go to work in the morning, come straight home from work, and sit in the house or sit on the porch and have a drink, smoke a cig, and do Wordle or something on their phone all the time. I'm like, well, they don't know that you live here. You don't have people randomly coming down our long driveway to the backyard to meet you. You actually have to go out where there are human beings and say that crazy word like, I don't know, hello? Well, you know everybody. Yeah, I know everybody because I'm that crazy guy that will strike up a conversation. That's part of why my wife doesn't like going shopping with me. I will start conversations all the time with strangers. To me, strangers are just friends I haven't met yet. Do they all become friends? No. But that's how I've gotten quite a bit of friends, was by being willing to say, hi, Holly.
You can finish what you're saying. Were you done?
Yep, I'm done.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say another thought that's coming into my mind is I call it the power of Chen. If you want to get to be good friends with somebody, you need their Chen to come out and you need your own Chen to come out. So a lot of this stuff we talk about, that's what it's all about.
Yes.
When you do the trifecta, they feel really heard. They tap into their passions. They maybe even regress to a younger version of themselves when they were, life was a little less complicated and they were really happy. And so that's great for them. And then on your side, so one of the things I was thinking about is, okay, let's pretend you absolutely loathe small talk. And the way you decide to meet a bunch of friends is invite a whole bunch of people over for, say, a barbecue where all you're going to do is small talk. And let's say you also hate cooking and you hate barbecue. That is not the event where you're going to make a lot of friends, because even if you can get them into their Shen, you are never going to be in your own Shen.
Yes.
So, what is the thing that makes you a little quirky that you've been afraid to let people see, but that really lights you up? Maybe you're an amateur stand-up comedian. Maybe you're an amateur musician or an amateur magician, or, maybe you love animals. Find an event where you are going to bring that side of yourself out. Let's do a workshop on some cheesy little magic tricks. Let's do a thing where we all volunteer and we go to the animal shelter and play with the animals so that we could socialize them a little bit better. That you could think outside the box. Just because this is what everybody does doesn't mean it's what we have to do. Always, if you're planning, now granted, if you're going to somebody else's party, you got to go to a certain extent with what they planned. But if you are planning the party, always make sure there's something that's going to light you up in the way the evening has been organized. And if you go somewhere else, always have something that's going to help light you up before you go out. Even if it's just, you listen to a song you absolutely love beforehand, and it will put you in the right energy.
Yep. And it's interesting because we've also got this platform. Even though we all have other interests, if we go around the table, we're sitting here watching Dr. Duncan fix an amazing turntable, and we've got the beautiful Fran who deals with fire departments and helping people in that way. We got Michael who is into sales. We've got all sorts of stuff, but we've got one commonality, and that's another thing. It's kind of like triple P with dating. Who do you want in your tribe? What do they look like? What spot would be well filled? Well, where are you going to find that person? Where do they hang out? What do they like to do as well? Again, it's looking for these people with intention. Yes, sometimes you get lucky. You bump into them on the street. You buy something from them, and while you're in the middle of the transaction, you've got something to chit chat about. And all of a sudden you find out both of you grew up close to each other, or somebody, and it can be that simple. But you also have to have some conversational skills and some likability. So if that's your challenge, you might want to work on that as well. Mike put in the chat, I know how powerful the trifecta is, but for the new people, is there an episode that could be used as a training session? Yes, Mike, thank you for asking. And of course, I I have no idea which episode it is. They're all labeled, but I do know that there is one on my YouTube channel, which is TSWB Helps, that in the description has the trifecta. There is also a training that I'm desperately trying to get off of my flippin' cell phone that I did in Chicago that was specifically a 58-minute training on the trifecta. Use blip. I don't know what blip is. But yeah, it's weird because I've got I can transfer anything off of my phone. I've got other videos, I've got other stuff that are on there. I do pictures all the time, putting them into files on my computer. But I cannot find this one video that I can watch. It's there. I can see it, I can watch it. And when I connect to the computer, it sees everything but that one video. All right.
Hey, TJ,
Hey, Michael.
if you put it in a drive, you can find it, and you send me access to it, I can tweak it for you as well and put it on stuff. Anyway, just throwing it out there.
I'll be bringing my phone with me to San Diego, so I'll show you how crazy it is that it's right there, but my phone or my computer sees everything but that one item.
Could it have been shared with you, possibly?
Well, the other funny part is I airdropped it to another phone that I have successfully.
Mhm.
And when I hook that phone up to the computer, same thing. It sees everything on the phone except that one file.
Cool, we can find it. If you can
Great.
airdrop it, we can find it.
Yeah.
Because I'll have you airdrop it to my computer, and we'll put it right there, and we'll make it happen.
Right on. That's why we have tribes. And we are 28 minis into the second hour. Mark, did you get a sufficient amount of answers for your question?
Well, I would say there's never never a complete, again, it's such a broad topic, having a tribe, finding a tribe, building a tribe, creating a tribe. So it's a big, it's a big tent. So I think we got a good, there's a good start there. So, but thank you. Yes.
Awesome. Well, then we need a new question or topic to keep going. Who's got another question or topic for us? Come on, kids. Holly's got one. Yay!
So this is kind of a random one. So I don't know how many of you have been on job interview boards.
Mhm.
They didn't make sense to me until I was thinking about it recently. So I used to think when I was interviewing for jobs that my problem was they didn't think I was the candidate that would do the best job in the job. But after being on the interview panels, I would notice that, you have to understand I've worked in, primarily government type jobs. So we would get done and everyone would agree, including me, they'd always list two candidates. I promise I'm going somewhere with this. But they would always list two candidates. They'd say, this is the candidate that we think did the best interview, and this is the candidate that we think is the best match for the job. And the thing that surprised me was I actually agreed with them on those two candidates. But every single time they'd say, so we've got to pick the candidate that did the best interview. And I'd always been taught you want the candidate who's best for the job. And so anyway, here's where my question kind of comes on this. It suddenly clicked to me, I think because it's government type jobs, these people felt like they were on a judging board for kind of like a, a fair or a competition, and that they were awarding the blue ribbon for the best interview. And they thought that was genuinely what they were supposed to be doing, because they're not going to be personally affected by the job that much. A little bit, they'll work with them a little bit, but they're not directly supervising it. They're not whatever. They were just random people that were selected from the population because you have to have a certain number of people on the job interview board. So my first question is, do you think that this happens more in our world where people are, when they don't have skin in the game, so to speak, they genuinely think they're making the right decision, and they're making the decision based on the wrong criteria? And if so, what areas of our lives do we think that happens in, and how can we avoid making that mistake in our lives, if that makes sense? Kind of a long question. Hopefully it made sense.
No, that's a good question. Who wants to start off the answers for Miss Holly? Fran, please.
From the wrong point of view, to me, it brings up having the courage to disagree with the group.
Yes.
And, that's my first focus on what you've said, and having the guts to stand up especially when there's a lot of people who are maybe more senior to you, actually being the one that points out, look, there's a huge flaw in where you're even starting from. That takes guts.
It does. Anybody else got some input for Holly? Mark.
Yeah, when I was learning the interview buster from Dr. David a while back, he made a key point that I thought I'd bring forward. It's not the most qualified candidate that usually gets the job. It is the candidate that wins the interview game. Kind of what Wally was illustrating.
Yep.
And it happens quite a bit, I'm sure in corporate and other, venues. I don't know about government, but if you win the interview game, you're going to get the job. And that was his premise, and that's how I learned the interview. And I teach it, I pass it along to people, going for job interviews.
Mm-hmm.
So they, there's a, again, and it's again, when it's down to, the two candidates, again, that final question, why should we pick you? And then the coup de grace, as Dr. David teaches, is, well, you do a time shrink. 6 months from now, your boss is going to come to you and, where did you find this guy, TJ? He's amazing. I wish we had 20 of him. And looking back on today, doing the time shrink, that's why you should pick me, sir.
Yeah.
That's the last step of the, so that you take the interviewer with you into the future where he's getting compliments and feeling good about selecting you, and then you bring him back to the moment. And, that's like the last step of the interview blaster. So not to reveal any secrets or anything.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Who else has an answer for Miss Holly? Because I have lots of them. Well, if anybody has anything, jump in. But my wife is an executive recruiter, so she is interviewing people all the time, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people. And thank goodness she has taken some of the trainings that Dr. David and myself put on to be able to basically, interviews are kind of like speed dating. Everybody tries to put on their best mask first, and oh my gosh, look at me, and I do this, and I do this, and I can do this. And you have to be able to know how to look past the mask and see what they're not saying. And another point that Simon Sinek put up was he asked the question, which is more important, skill sets or personality? Who wants to take a guess on what he said? Michael's like, pick me, pick me.
Personality, because skill sets can be taught.
Amen. Amen to the amen. And my wife has had to deal with this many times where on paper, this person looked amazing, checked all the boxes. And then she did the interview and realized that their personality, no bueno. And part of what she has to do is almost like a private investigator. She's sitting there trying to figure out, well, why did they move from this job? And who can tell me honestly what they were like in this job? And why are they looking, and why were they only here for so long? And things of that nature. And ironically, sometimes being at the same job too long in these days is no longer a benefit, especially if you stayed horizontal in the company. Well, I moved to this department, or I got a raise. Well, but what did you do other than spend more time there? Well, I got a raise because I was there for 10 years. You didn't move up. You didn't gather any other responsibility or anything. You just stayed in the exact same button pushing, or Groundhog Day job. That's not the big benefit it used to be. And so again, realizing that, again, it's kind of like the speed dating concept. What are they looking for? And learning the trifecta, learning the interview buster is huge, because it's not always about what's on paper that will get you the position. Anybody else got any input on this? Did that help answer your question, Holly?
It definitely did. If it's okay, I'm going to ask a follow-up question that just popped into my head.
That's why we do this.
And maybe I'm completely off base on this, but which is more important, personality or integrity, and can personality be taught? Just a random thought that popped into my head.
Ooh. Okay, who's got something for this one? Come on, kids. Mark.
Well, those are qualities, personality, integrity. Like I said, it depends on your definition and your usage and how you evaluate that. And, I think we're all taught those qualities. We see them modeled and we inculcate them. Personality, like I said, someone can become, stand-up comic. They can develop a very funny personality, or they could be, integrity, like I said, it's not intrinsic to the human being, but it can be, modeled, emulated, inculcated, and So a person that displays, high integrity, that's a process, just like personality that takes years to develop. So that's my input, is that those, the different, can they be taught? Absolutely. Like I said, it's a skill. We arrive here a blank hard drive, and, some people have developed a different types of personalities, and, modeling, practicing, inculcating, and it's interesting how people program themselves to have certain qualities, personality, integrity, fortitude, those types of things. But that's, everything's learned, in my humble opinion, because we arrive here a blank hard drive. So the answer is, can they be taught? Everything can be taught, to a certain extent.
Yep.
Can't teach height. That's about the only thing you can't.
Yeah.
That's what I was told in, basketball. I couldn't be a power forward because you can't teach height. I was only 6'4". So I've shrunk.
Fran.
I was thinking that actually personality can be adjusted. We have the skills, deep trance identification, been there, done that. You can change your personality completely if you want. We can do it. But I think integrity is something a bit more core, and therefore,
Yes.
if you're digging into the genuine person and their genuine integrity, I think that's a much more reliable and valuable evaluation tool. But again, we are changeable creatures, malleable, and we can change if we choose.
Yes. And I'm glad you brought that up, Fran, because my squirrel had just brought that up. Personalities are flexible. People can pretend to be so many different things in so many different situations. But integrity, that, like you said, is a core value, right down to the personalities. Why are you bringing this personality out? If you've got a lack of integrity, it's really easy to switch and be somebody just like that. Oh, this is who you want me to be, so that you'll be my friend, so I can get what I'm looking for, so I can get what I want. Lack of integrity, flexible personality. Michael.
Really quick, just to clarify, because if you're looking for personality and integrity in an interview situation, like you just said, it's very difficult to find the true integrity of the person, because people can pretend to be something that they're not, and especially if they're a skilled interviewer or interviewee, they're going to answer the way that they think that needs to be done. But the cool thing about when you bring somebody into your tribe or not bring somebody into your tribe is you find these things out before you fully bring them in, with questions or watching, observation, how the person responds when other people aren't watching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So does that help, Holly?
It's interesting points. Sorry, my brain's been going a million miles an hour just processing it. But yes,
No.
It does definitely. Thank you.
Your brain's always going a million miles an hour. That's what we love about you.
Yes.
One of the many things we love.
Yes, exactly. And Holly's got her hand up.
So some thoughts too, just for help. Obviously, you can only know so much about someone personality-wise, integrity-wise, skill set-wise from an interview anyway. I mean, literally everything they could lie about, they could pretend to be who you want them to be. And, we could say interview, we could say date when we're talking about building our tribe. It could be, the first time we hang out as friends, whatever it may be. All of these, I think they are. But there are a couple things you can look at. So first of all, we talk about, the trifecta when you use the 3 magic questions, when you use echo talk, when you use criterion values, people will tell you things about themselves that they don't even know they're telling you.
Yes.
And, this kind of goes back to are you looking for it? Do you even know what you're looking for? If you know what you're looking for, you can spot the red flags. But if you're just saying, oh, this feels good, I'm in a situation that feels good. Well, good people might make you feel good, but trained manipulators might make you feel good as well. But if you're actually saying, I'm looking for key personality traits, or I'm looking for key integrity traits, or I'm looking for key skill sets, if that's what you're actually looking for, it will help you find the right questions. But anyway, just a couple other quick ways to know is if you read the book Give and Take by Adam Grant, I think is his name, he talks about the very first, if you ask somebody the interview question, who have you helped mentor or helped in their career around you? Those who don't have integrity, those who take, will only tell you stories about people who were above them, who had the ability to give them something back, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Where the true people with integrity will tell you about somebody who was lower on the totem pole, who they, now granted, they might tell you about somebody higher too, because they're not necessarily distinguishing between the two. But that could be a real, and then the other one that he says is a surefire way is look how big their picture is if they're the CEO on their documents. Now, how you translate that to somebody that you're on, might change. But anyway, so there are some, they're not 100%, but there are some indicators if you know what to look for that can give you better percentage chance of guessing.
I love the one about the picture. That's awesome. Fran.
Well, that kind of segues neatly into a topic that I'd like to bring up, if you haven't already covered
Please.
it today, which is asking more useful questions, not just of other people, but of yourself. So more useful questions that are going to give you better outcomes with information and with positivity about yourself. So just sort of going down the line of Holly's interviewing and also self-communication. What have people got to say about asking more useful questions that are going to get you faster to where you'd love to be?
Yes. Such an important topic. Who's got a good answer for, who's got some answers for Fran, please? Holly.
I'm talking nonstop here. Something that just popped into my head. For those who've trained with Dr. David Snyder, in one of his in his universal persuasion protocol or whatever it's called, step 0 is know your outcome. And I'm just realizing all night long it just keeps coming back to that, because if you have no outcome, there is no better question in the first place. So do I want to become a nicer person? Do I want to become a more skilled person? Do I want to manifest better things? And then I would say, pull out your notes on the entire Universal Persuasion Protocol. Your state control. You could ask the exact same question, and if you're in a calm, grounded state, it's going to be very different than if you're in a state of, everybody hates me and I need to do this immediately and I'm desperate. So yeah, just go down that entire list and I think you will ask better questions.
Fran.
Well, I know Elijah's really good at this stuff, and a lot of the how questions and the why questions, why in a useful way, not why does everything happen to me, but why does everything happen to me? There's such a difference between the questions that you ask, and we get into the habit of asking the wrong questions, and we need to be vigilant about that. And asking other people, whether it's the 3 magic questions, if you want to know more about somebody, targeting those under that, getting that flow going of the 3 magic questions to get people loving to share the essence of who they are with you. And you can feel the energy around that. That was the bit also with interviewing that we didn't cover. And it's not in everybody's vocabulary, but actually tuning into the energy of the person as well, because sometimes what they feel is not what's coming out of their mouth.
All amazing, great stuff. And anybody else got anything they want to add before I throw in my two centavos? Holly.
Sorry, I just keep having things pop into my head.
Don't be sorry. This is...
So that made me think about, earlier I was saying that, friendship happens when Chen meets Chen. When's the last time you sat down and got to know your brain and you asked it the three magic questions? You asked it, what are your early positive childhood experiences? What are your passions? Ask your heart, ask your gut. We talk about bringing up all of your actors, bring your, actor on stage who's responsible for going to work. What are your passions? What do you want to see? Because I think a lot of asking the right questions is learning to listen better.
Yes.
And the more you listen, the more you'll know what to ask.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes.
And you don't just listen with your ears.
Yes. And I've said it many times. Go think about how we're being conditioned now with the example of Google and chat and all those. The better the question, the better the answer. And you can ask something 8 different ways online and get 8 different sets of answers. So if you ask a question and the answer seems off and you're like, well, that's not exactly the answer I was looking for, learn how to quickly reframe the question and re-ask it. Mark.
Yeah, like I said, there are, Fran's question about, how do we ask better questions? I think if they're questions that we have to think about before we answer, I think that's probably a good definition. I thought of, it popped into my head, scroll came by, and said, 2 questions. What do you want? And how are you going to know when you've got it?
Yes.
Oh.
Yep, values and criteria basis right there. How will you know when you get it? Michael.
That's why when you ask the good question, you don't want to ask the question seeking to respond. You want to ask the question seeking to understand or empathize, to make the connection.
Yep. Lots of good stuff here. Elijah.
TJ.
Sir?
This would be a perfect opportunity for me to shamelessly plug my next class. Would you mind if I do that?
I would not only not mind, I would invite it, please. Thank you.
So September 6th, 6 p.m. UK time. The Zoom link will be made available 1 week before. It is The Playground, episode 5, and the title is The Greatest Advantage You Can Have in a Man's World is Being a Woman Who Gets It.
Can you put some information in the comments as well?
That's all I have. I can put what I just said in the comments. That's all I have.
Yep. Nope. That would be
Normally,
that way they can.
For the first 4, this is the 5th one, right? The 5th episode or the 5th class in this series. The first 4 I used to give really long, kind of inviting, tempting introductions, trying to lure people into the class and get them excited and interested. But this time, I think that title is just enough. And if you want to know, you will want to know.
Yeah. thank you for offering it up here. We got 5 minis left. Any other ahas, epiphanies, add-ons for anything that we talked about today? Any squirrels find their way back with some thoughts that you guys would be willing to share quick? No squirrels at all. Woo! Well, next week, I'll be joining you guys from Dr. Duncan's abode in San Diego.
Or my place.
Or, yep, Tuesday night, is that one of them? I'll be up there, so I'll be in next week. Triple T will be broadcast live from California.
Somewhere in San Diego.
Somewhere
in San Diego.
Yes.
Also known as a whale's vagina.
What?
And everybody who has not seen that movie just went,
Ah!
yes, that is direct from a movie.
Anchorman
Yes.
with Will Ferrell.
Oh, yes.
Well, I am so glad that you guys are part of this tribe, part of this team. Every week I am just humbled and amazed and impressed and proud and on and on and on, lacking the vocabulary to tell you how much I appreciate you guys showing up every week for this. And how much you guys bring to the table here. So thank you. Anybody else have any other comments? That we got 2 minis left that we can play with, or we could finish early.
Real quick, talking about questions, just be aware of where your questions lead. So especially with the open-ended questions, where leads to a location, when leads to a time, what leads to a thing, how leads to a possibility, who leads to a person or an identity, why leads to a justification or a rationalization, right? So just be aware of however you start the question and which open-ended question word you use to formulate, that you are actually choosing the direction of the train of thought that's going to come back in response.
Yes, 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 yes.
So
Thank you.
when, time, where, location, how, possibility, who, an identity, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. That right there, for those of you watching the recording, rewind that and listen to it a couple of times. Because again, the better the question, the better the answer. If you don't get the answer you're looking for, do not be afraid to redo the question.
And also, like when you're coaching someone, if they don't understand your question, don't explain it to them. Let them figure it out. You can repeat your question, but don't explain your question.
Yes. Yes. I do that quite often with my students. I'll ask them, well, what does that mean? Or, I'm constantly asking, what did you get from that? What does that mean to you? All of the above, to get them to go over again what they learned, to make sure that it actually landed. I've seen so many teachers that are up on the podium just spewing out information, and class is done and off they go, and half the students are like, I have no idea what they were talking about. But that brought us right up to the top of the hour, just tipped over, and that means it's time for us once again to bid adieu to each other. Thanks again so much for showing up and helping fill up these 2 hours in the most amazing ways that you guys do. I also got to make sure I say, love you, Mom. Happy birthday again. Wish I was up there to give you a big hug. We're all thinking about you, and lots more. And for the rest of you, love you. Hope to see
We
you.
love you.
Hope to see you back here in 7 days. Go out, live life full throttle, have as much fun as you can, and I will see you guys from sunny SoCal.
Yay.
7 days.
Hi, Fran. Hi, Lenora. Hi,
Bye.
Duncan. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you.
You too.
Thank
all.
you,
Have a great week.
TJ.
See you guys.